Hey guys, welcome to or back to my channel. If you're new here, definitely hit the subscribe button and turn on your post notifications so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos about art, creativity, and faith. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about the 5 mistakes that artists make and kind of the rules that I've come up with, the 5 rules that I've come up with that I live by as an artist to prevent those mistakes because I've made them. So I'm going to start with more benign mistakes and work my way up to more important big mistakes that you just don't want to mess up. This list is going to be geared more toward painters just because that's what I am, but I think as we go on you'll see that it applies to any creative. So let's get started. So number 1 is not having enough white paint. I know, silly start, but it's something that it's a rule that I live by, which is always have more white paint. I think if you're a painter, you get this, and this is something that you may have learned, but if you're starting out, just know that when you're mixing color, when you're learning to mix color and lighten things and, mix complementary colors, split complementary, triads, whatever, tetrads, all those things, you're gonna want a lot of white. White just helps so much to create the colors that you want. And in the beginning, I had no idea about the color wheel. I didn't know anything. All I knew is that if I wanted to lighten a color, if I wanted to make different shades, I think it's shades or is it tints? It's shades of a color, then I just add white to it. So you should always just have white on hand, and it's just gonna save you a lot of time. You don't wanna, be ready for a paint session and realize you ran out of white. It just doesn't really help. However, if you're someone who paints straight out of the tube, go ahead. If you like darker colors, you work with a more moody palette. I still think white is really helpful, but do you. This is just a mistake that I made and a rule that I live by, which is to always have excess white paint. So number 2 is being lazy about your brushes. Specifically leaving them in water overnight or leaving them out by accident and they crust over with paint and they're dead. I mean, I know there's ways to bring them back to life, but I'm just saying, by and large, they're probably dead. And I'm speaking specifically when it comes to acrylic paint. Acrylic paint, it dries so quickly, so you have to make sure you put it in water. But once you put it in the water, take it out of the water and clean it once your painting session is over. It's so important. I've had so many times where I've left it in the water, and what happens is the water kind of soaks into the wood if you have like a wood brush, and then it kind of starts cracking the wood, and then the metal part that's holding the brush and the stick just starts to loosen up, and then your brushes just fall apart, and nobody wants that. They're the vehicle for your painting, so you want to make sure you take care of them. I actually just did that the other day. So my rule to live by, even though I sometimes screw up, but it's so good to know, do not be lazy about cleaning your brushes. Number 3 is a mistake that I made when I was first starting out, sharing my art with others and selling it. I varnished a painting before it sold. I learned very quickly that if a painting doesn't sell, then it's lost forever. You can't paint over it. It's varnished, and I know there's ways to remove varnish, but for me, I used a more permanent one. I sprayed it on and it was just gone forever, and I did that for a bunch of paintings that never sold. My idea behind this was to have good customer service, and that's a very good thing to strive for. But when it came down to it, I wanted the collector who bought the art to get their art as soon as possible. But if there's no collector, then I should be able to reuse that painting if it no longer serves me, or if I no longer want that painting. So obviously there are times where a painting doesn't sell and you hold on to it. It's not like this hasn't sold in 2 days and you get rid of it and you paint over it. But these things cost money, so you want to paint over it. If a painting didn't sell and you're at that point where you're ready to move on from it and it's not your baby anymore, then you should be able to, and I think that's perfectly fine. So don't varnish a painting before it sells. Number 4, and this is when we start getting really big, the mistake that I see artists making and that I have made myself in the past as a self-taught artist is to be more inspired by other artists than my own life. I know it's really hard with social media to see other artists and be inspired by their techniques and their colors and, the way they move their brush and the brushes that they use, or the tools that they use that are not brushes, and whatever mediums they're using along with whatever paint, medium with the medium. I know it's really tempting and it's exciting. It's not like you're wanting to copy, hopefully. It's not like you're wanting to copy, at least I never did, but sometimes I would find myself wanting to like paint like another artist when I paint the way that I paint, and my creative intuition is my creative intuition. And that's a good thing. And to be more inspired by other people than I am by my everyday life, well, that's a discredit to my creativity, and it cheapens the other person's work. It's just not fair to them. So it's more important, the rule that I live by is to be inspired by my own life. So if that means taking a walk, if that means, going to the beach, if that means, having a more tactile experience with something, a physical experience, if I run, if I, feel the wind, like whatever it may be. I'm very inspired by nature, as you can see, even though I'm an abstract artist. Whatever it is to get me inspired by my own work and noticing moments of beauty in my life that come into the studio with me, that is what's going to make the magic happen for my creativity. And the way that I avoid, being more inspired by other artists is if I see an artist and I'm starting to compare myself and I'm starting to think, oh, that technique is really cool, I want to try that. What I'll do is I'll take a certain mark or a certain color or a certain whatever technique that they're using, and I'll practice with it on my own and integrate it into my own work. So that way it's authentic. I explore it privately so that by the time I share it with the public, it's my own thing. It's not something it's not a carbon copy of someone else's work. It's not even vaguely similar. It's something completely different at that point, and that's the goal. So if you can avoid that at all, sometimes if I see another artist and I'm comparing myself and I want to do something that they're doing, I don't even practice it at all. I don't even try it. I literally just hit unfollow and I back off, because I want to explore my own creativity and I want that to shine when I share that with my audience and my collectors. So number 4 is don't be more inspired by other artists than you are by your own life. Number 5, this goes along with number 4, worrying too much about rules and not channeling all their energy into their own creative intuition. As a self-taught artist, I didn't go to school for art, so I don't really know all the things all the rules and everything. But one thing that I learned very early on was not to mix too much water with acrylic paint, that it breaks down the chemical compound of the paint and it's just not good. It won't last as long as it would if you used a medium to kind of achieve whatever effect that you're looking for. That's what I learned, and so I avoided that. But I see now more than ever so many artists who are doing just that. And honestly, some artists, art history or maybe even now, don't think that the point of art is to be necessarily archival. And I think that is somewhat true. There are different schools of thoughts on these things. There's different reasons why you make your art, and there's different purposes behind it, and kind of the life that you want your painting to have, whether it's holding on to its meaning when you made it, whether you want it to be a long-lasting heirloom in a family, whatever the purpose of your painting is, or your art, or whatever that you're making, that's what is the focus. Don't focus on the rules of what people say you should and shouldn't do, because all these artists wouldn't be successful had they not broken the rules. And what is art anyways if we're just following rules made by other people? Let's not do that. So the rule that I live by in this case, ironically so, is follow my creative intuition and don't care too much about the rules. Did I contradict myself? That's okay. You get me, right? So that's it for today's video. I hope that if you're a painter or creative, that you found this really helpful and that you can live by these rules and avoid these mistakes. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. That would really be awesome. And if you've made a mistake that wasn't on this list, leave it in the comments below so that we can all learn from each other and be better as artists. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.